Hello, you guys. My name is Deja Downey, and I'm the founder of the Vision Group Marketing Consultant. And today I am honored, I am blessed to be sitting here with the man with the plan for the 502, Mr. Donnie Adkins. So with that being said, Mr. Donnie, how are you this morning?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited because it's Saturday and we made it, period, right? So
yes.
With that being said,
2021.
2021. Big dreams,
Yes.
big goals. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say today. So
Yes.
with that being said, this is business and tea. So what exactly is in your cup?
So it's not tea and it's definitely not water, but since I am a club owner, I get to drink whatever I want.
Nice. Right. That's so funny. So actually what I have is a cup that says trust the journey on it. And I think this is so important to what we're doing in business, but most important to what you're doing in business. So I'm excited about this. But and the inside is actually it is Bilo's tea, and it has it's a probiotic. So for those who are trying to make sure everything is working and functioning correctly.
Right. Yeah.
I'm excited about that. So without further ado, get right into the madness. Real estate investor. Tell us a little bit about that and how did you get into that?
The short story is about 6.5, almost 7 years ago, we moved back to Louisville. I moved back to Louisville with my now wife. She was my fiance then. We lived up in Indianapolis for several years, moved over to North Carolina. We stayed there for a year, and then we decided to make Louisville home. And so we had a house in Indianapolis, and we were looking for a house here in Louisville. And at that point, we were renting that house out in Indianapolis, and we were doing it all wrong. Like, the person wasn't paying enough rent. We were supplementing that rent. And I was just thinking every month, I said, you know what, I got to figure out what am I doing wrong and how to do this correctly. And once we got that situated, I was like, if I can do this 130 miles away, I wonder what I can do in my own neighborhood. And, you know, the rest is kind of history, but I'll give you like a real quick story about my first house. I used to tell my wife, could we afford a Kia, the Kia? And it basically it's $25,000, $30,000 car. It's like, instead of paying it off in 5 years, you know, if we bought a $25,000, $30,000 house, we could pay it off in 15 years. And I was like, you know, I'm thinking about the math on that. And we ended up buying our first house. It was $25,000. We put a few other thousand with it. Our total payment on a $30,000 house over 15 years was like $100 and some change.
Wow.
And yeah. And I was like, well, okay. And so it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and we rented that house out for $725. So
wow.
After our payments, the insurance, and holding a little bit of money to the side, we were making about $500 a month on that house, cash flow. And it didn't take long for, you know, the wheels to start clicking.
Right.
And that same house now, I would tell you, it doesn't have a mortgage, but we make $900 and some change off of that house every month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Whew. It's level to this. Is that what people have said? So
it is.
Super exciting. So with that being said, so you obviously have been growing since that first house. Yeah. And how do you feel about educating other people about the process?
So I love the education piece about this because I didn't know anything. And I feel like not only did I not know anything, I probably made a ton of the mistakes. I made the banking mistakes. I made the paying contractors up front mistakes, contractors leaving and I'm never getting in contact with them mistakes, allowing them, you know, the trust of my house mistakes. So what I did was about 5 or 6 years ago, I created a Facebook page called Wekeza West, Wekeza West. And Wekeza is Swahili for invest. So basically invest West. And, you know, that Facebook page is really set up to people to see the mistakes of real estate, the mistakes of financial financial mistakes, etc., and for you to post about your business on that particular page. Now, a lot of people try to post a lot of stuff on that page, and I was like, well, there's not a lot of places in Louisville where you can specifically find real estate advice.
Right.
And more specifically, Black real estate advice, and just be real about that. And so that's a page where you can come learn. Over the years, what I've done is I've invited people out, and I will allow you to see the house in its infancy stages. It's tore up, a house that's just completely ragged. And I would invite these same folks back out, putting that invitation back on Wikiza website. I would invite you back out to see the house in its grandiose stage. Right. And I would allow you to, I would talk about the money that we put into it, the fixtures that we put into it. And if I was going to sell the house, what we would sell it for, or if we were going to rent the house, what we would rent it for, and why we would do both per tax reasons. So and that doesn't even count the inboxes, the random text messages at 8:00 at night when I'm trying to hang out, and just, I try not to tell people no for the most part,
right?
Because it's so exciting to me, and I want it to. It's hard work, but I want it to be exciting for someone else, because I understand what real estate investing has done for me, and if it can do it for me, it's cliche, but if it happened for me, I think it can happen for a lot more folks.
Excellent. So you actually built a community around the whole process, and that's beautiful.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to do here, is build a community. Once you have community, you have engagement, and you have membership, and fellowship amongst people. I mean, that's something that's long standing. I tell people all the time, if you could build an ecosystem, just like the Kroger's Plus card, for an example, even though we know Kroger has sometimes some very high prices, but just because you think you'll get something off the back end, you definitely want to be a part of Kroger card, right? You got to find your Kroger card, your keychain, they got it in the wallet, just build a sense of community and an ecosystem that can build longevity. It's monumental.
I agree. Yes, definitely.
Speaking of community, Club Cedar, I have heard so many things about this. I'm kind of young, so I didn't really go there, and I don't club, so I really didn't go there. But I have heard some crazy things that you guys have planned to do with that place, and if you don't mind sharing a little of those things, we'd gladly take
sure.
I'll let you can give us.
So again, another short story. So basically, me and a lot of my friends have been going there over the years for a long time. I've been going there for at least 10 years. Even when I wasn't living in Louisville, when I came back to Louisville, we would always hang out at Club Cedar. About 7 years ago, while still working in corporate America, me and a lot of my other friends, we would go down to Club Cedar on Mondays, and we would call it Men's Mondays. And just imagine a whole lot of Black men, some with jackets and suits and ties on, basically hanging out with, retirees and older Black men who gave advice and always had something, some kind of value to give us over drinks, and most often good food also. And so, sitting there over the years, me and one of my good friends, we would talk about, if we would ever buy a club, if this club was ours, the things that we would do with this club. And so I made it up in my mind 10 years ago. I was like, all right, if this club ever comes for sale, I'm gonna buy it. And you may have heard the story. When I proposed to my wife, I told her the same thing, I proposed to her in front of Indianapolis Pacers arena.
Wow.
And this was, we've been married 7 years, so this was about 10 years ago. So when we talked about that, she didn't know anything about Club Cedar, nothing about Louisville, but she agreed. And so, unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that's gone on with the club and the neighborhood in that time. But when the chance came, we sat down and we really talked about this, and we talked about every aspect of it, and she still agreed. And once she agreed, it was just like off to the races. So now I run it with a brother of mine's, David Duncan, and a good friend of mine's also, Christina Maddox, who they basically they lease out the kitchen for me, because I don't know anything about cooking. but they do. And I manage the actual property and the bar side. We're doing a lot of stuff in the bar, and I'm trying to make sure that we do it really, really slowly, and with the community and the regulars who come in there every day, every other day. I'm trying to make sure that whatever we do it with them in mind, and I'm trying not to make sure that we don't forget that. Right. I do see that the customer base is really excited about the changes, and sometimes they get ahead of themselves, like, when is this going to be done? When have you thought about this? And
it's that community. They own it, right?
They do, but I have developed a canned response because I can't answer 1,000 questions a night, because I still got to come home and be a husband and a father. So I got to make sure my mind isn't too scrambled. And so that canned response as of today is the family has owned this place for over 40 years. Wow. I've owned it for 4 weeks. Just give me a chance. and I think they've seen that. And I think a lot of folks understand that. We've cleaned it up. We've instituted security. There's a police presence there. We accept credit cards, so you don't have to, if you run out of cash, you don't have to run anywhere. That's been a big, crazy part about it. And I would reiterate again that we cleaned it up. One of the things a lot of folks used to complain about, they love the fish, they love the chicken, etc., is that the kitchen was never open. And sometimes the club opens at noon, and sometimes the kitchen didn't open until like 5 or 6 in the afternoon. Wow. And sometimes that's no good. So since the day we purchased it, my wife and I, we made sure that kitchen is open when the club is open. So the club opens at noon, kitchen opens at noon. So unfortunately, with all the pandemic and the fight for justice downtown, not unfortunately, but a lot of those restaurants are closed, and we've seen a big, huge uptick in business, that a lot of folks who wouldn't come past 9th Street we are now a viable option for them.
I love that. Redlining is still a thing. Redlining is past the 9th and the 8th Street, not coming back far enough to actually experience downtown life for what it truly is. My grandma lived on 26 in Garland my whole life. Mm-hmm. And you could not tell me that was anything different than my grandma's house. We went there every Sunday. We ate great food. We had great conversations, and that was my family. So it's funny how the people have another outlook, because we grew up out Westport Road and out Oldham County. So it's very unique on perception, but people have real lives, and they go to 26 and 26 and Broadway's, Kroger's, and they shop and everything. It's a whole life down there that it's not all violent driven. So I think people need to definitely take advantage of everything people are doing.
Yeah.
Sure. That is I'm excited.
I tell people about there's always something going on in the city, period. And we had a conversation, I actually had this conversation in Club Cedar a week ago with some friends who actually bought someone who is from West Louisville, but refuses to come back to West Louisville during certain days and certain times. And I just told him, I was like, one, before you blame everything past 9th Street, I want you to look at the statistics of Louisville in this past year for 2020. And it wasn't all West Louisville. It was a little bit of everywhere. And if you're going to blame, I can't talk to you if you're just going to blame one side of the city. If you're going to blame one side of the city, then we're two different worlds, and there's probably no connecting with you anyway. But I would encourage everyone to, before they, make that type of statement, just look at the news. And this has been, unfortunately, the craziest year we've had in a long time, probably since either you and I have been on this earth. And, no neighborhood was exempt, 0 neighborhoods. So it happened in the Highlands, it happened in Fern Creek, happened in Newburgh, it happened in Polo Fields, St. Matthews, everywhere. So, unfortunately, past 9th Street just gets a little bit more airtime than those other places. But if you're really, really paying attention, then you know that it's not a neighborhood thing; it's a Louisville thing.
Right. people have feelings all around. It's not just like people downtown have feelings. It's like everybody has a feeling, has an opinion about what happened. I say it was a huge picture. First of all, COVID-19 kicked everything off. Then you have your unemployment that spun a lot of people's furloughs and time off for work, and dissolvement of jobs. And then here you go with a whole civil rights movement, or an injustice, unfortunately. So yeah, this 2020 was one of the years for the books for sure. I would never be able to unlive 2020, the year they made us put a mask on.
Right.
Got a mask now. So with that being said, I'm gonna break right into the breakout questions.
Yeah.
Come up with, if you could just tell me one word, and I mean, Mr. Donnie, one word. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of words that could describe you, but give me one word that best describes who you are.
That is hard. I would probably say risk taker. It's kind of two words, but risk taker. Yeah.
Why
like because I figured out a long time ago, and I tell a lot of people my story, but I dropped out of high school, and I was out for about 3 months, and ended up going back to high school and graduating surprisingly on time, thanks JCPS. But I learned a long time ago that I wanted to do something a little bit different. And so I still remember all of my friends I grew up with in Southwick. Every last one of my friends, except me and another guy who went to the military, every last one of the folks we grew up with have felonies. And I knew that jail wasn't for me. And I knew that, if I wanted to get out here in the streets or do whatever, I was like, it just wasn't really my thing. So I decided to take risk a long time ago. Every time I could have easily went, and I'm not saying corporate America is, the easy way, but I could literally be sitting in corporate America and just having a good time and making a nice salary and just a decent life. But I quit all of that, and I'm thinking real estate is the way to go. People looked at me all crazy. It's just like, I don't understand why you give this job up. And we bought Club Cedar. Everybody always prefaces their congratulations with "be careful." It's like, all right, okay, is that a be careful because I own a club, or is that a be careful because it's past 9th Street? Like, do you tell the manager who works at Kroger's to be careful when he or she goes into work every day? So it's just like I'm a risk taker. I've read enough books to know that if you want anything out of life, there's no reason, there's no way that someone else is going to just hand that to you. You have to figure out a way to do stuff for yourself. And if you're not taking risks, then you're waiting on other folks. And I'm just not going to wait.
Very solid. Very solid.
Yeah.
Very solid. So I would say, as a person that has similar background as you, come out of corporate America, trying to be an entrepreneur, well, not trying to be, being a full-fledged entrepreneur and growing and helping people, I would definitely say the same thing. It's difficult. You definitely have to be a risk taker to do it, because it's like, oh my God, I'm so used to this consistent income every single week, this amount without rain, sleet, or snow, and then you're like, well, I gotta go make it happen. But for people who are hog water a certain way, you got to go. And you won't stop. You can't stop. And I love it. I'm proud to be here as well. So I understand what you resonate with. That's part of your spirit, 100%. So my next question is, if you can give a piece of advice for anybody starting out in real estate, what would that piece of advice be? And just what would that piece of advice be?
So the best thing I can tell people is kind of what I did. Do not approach someone green. Because people like to take advantage of you. Or when people come to ask me for advice, they usually know nothing. And I say nothing. They haven't read any books. They haven't checked out any YouTube pages. They don't follow real estate hashtags online. Like it's like, hey, tell me about real estate. And I think that's not the best use of my time or your time. Just to say, tell me about real estate. Now, if you come to someone and say, I've read, these 5 books and I've studied them and I follow such and such on YouTube and I follow this person online and et cetera, and this is where I am now, help me get to the next level. That's the advice I would give somebody. Just do not come to, and that's with anything. It's like, hey, I want to learn computer programming, and, I just been working at McDonald's all day. I was like, that's not a problem, but, what portion of computer programming do you want to learn? Like, what aspect of real estate do you want to learn? Because there's a ton of aspects of it. My specialty is buying real estate and holding on to it to rent it out, and buying real estate to fix it up and flip it. Those two are my specialties. But there are so many subspecialties below that, I'm not as versed in. But if I go talk to someone about it, some of that will start clicking to me because I've already studied a lot of it. And this was, I've stayed up 2-3 o'clock in the morning consistently, not only as an entrepreneur, but just to figure this stuff out. So if I go talk to a banker, or if I'm going to talk to a mentor, they know that they're not wasting my time. I'm not wasting their time. And I've already done some of that back work. Imagine going and talk to a bank and wasting their time because you don't know anything. Like how do you think they would like to work with you in the future, regardless of your credit score? Be like, this person doesn't even know the basic fundamentals of, holding a property in a business, in an LLC. So, why would we do business with you? So that's the solid advice I would give people. Just don't come green. Don't come with anything. Don't come with not anything. Like, do some studying, do some type of research, and then let me know that, you've done a little bit more before you step to someone.
I agree with that. I think a lot of people definitely just thinks because they're them that it's going to fall upon them. And I've learned a long time that, opportunity means preparation.
Yeah.
I just said, you have to prepare for the opportunity. It doesn't just come. And then when it does come, are you ready? Because then people be able to live up to the expectations they put you at. So I agree with you 100%. So with that being said, Mr. Donnie, thank you so much for being on the show. But before you go, I would like for you to give your social media accounts where they can locate you and find you at the club, or get in touch with you personally, and anything you want them to know, and also maybe an email address if you like, whatever you like to share at this time.
Yes, definitely. All of my social media accounts are public. I did that a couple years ago because I knew some of the stuff that I put out online that I know it helps me. So I just assumed, crazily enough, that it might help someone else. So my Facebook page is Donnie Adkins, DonnieAdkins. That is the same for my Instagram page. My Twitter account is @NextBigThing28. That's for Twitter. And of course, I'm also on LinkedIn because I still keep up with the business world. LinkedIn is, of course, Donnie Adkins. And you can also follow the Facebook page, Club Cedar, and stay abreast of everything that we have going on.
Excellent. So you guys heard it first right here. He just gave you how you can find him. Now go find him, you guys, especially if you're interested in real estate and having a good time. So with that being said, I'm Deja Downey, and I'm the founder of the Vision Group Marketing Consulting. You can find me anytime at TVG Marketing on Facebook, at TVG Media on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn at Deja Downey, and you can email us anytime at info@thevisiongroupmarketing.com. So with that being said, we want you guys to have a great day, and we'll come back with more tea. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Here at Igloo Heating and Air, we are committed to quality, professionalism, and the safety of your home. Our technicians are prepared to service your home with proper PPE coverings. Using products like TempStar, why would you choose anyone else? Be sure to like our Facebook page where you can find exclusive offers daily. And we are Igloo Heating and Air, where professionalism and cool meet.